Hello and welcome to the first of my breakdowns of some interesting patch experiments that I've been doing with Eurorack modular synths. So recently I was lucky enough to get to see Simon Kirby and Andrew Osterley, otherwise known as Oz, demo the Disting NT downstairs in the basement at Schneider's Keller in London. I had a Disting X and I just found it really fiddly, but the demo just so impressive that I had to get my hands on one, and it looked like it kind of solved a lot of the problems with the Disting EX. Had a big screen, stuff like that. I'll add a link to Oz's recording of the gig down there. I suggest you go and have a look. So let's start playing. If you're not familiar with the setup of the Disting NT, the idea is that you can have a bunch of algorithms sort of stacked together, and there is an internal set of buses between which audio and CV signals can flow. So basically you can squeeze a lot of stuff together in a relatively small space. And I can go into each specific algo and tweak the parameters. Oops, being careful not to knock the dodgy MIDI cable. And also change the envelope modulation. Going back to the Hermod, I can also mute tracks. So here we're muting the MIDI signal for the drum samples. So I can also go into an overview page, which has control over specific parameters of the algorithm. So I can tweak the cutoff frequency of the filter. You can also see some information on the top right of the display there about how much CPU is being used by your algorithms. And obviously if you get over the limit there, the module will be muted. Actually, I've found that this seems to be a bit tricky, and I've had to do a kind of soft restart of the module in order to get it back to life, but it does say in the manuals, etc., that you should be able to just bypass an algorithm. Let me know if you've had any success doing that when your Disting gets overloaded. It's worth noting that we've got a transpose running on the MIDI track 8 here on the Hermod Plus. So that's just transposing our sequence up an octave and then down an octave to give us a bit of variety as we're playing it. So even though the sequence is only 1 bar long, we're getting a kind of like 4 bar sort of loop. Okay, we can switch it up by going to a different sequence on the Hermod Plus, which is essentially the same but just with a different pattern for the 303. So we can go into our parameters here and very quickly change the, for instance, the mix on the reverb here. So I think I've got this set to replace rather than add. So we're not doing a kind of send type effect, we're instead replacing the entire signal. But internally, obviously, it's doing a mix which we can adjust here. Also, we can take the reverb time right down and make a kind of chorus, kind of flanger effect, which is quite nice. Or of course we can increase it right up and get all spacey. I'm not going to change the model here, I think we all know what different reverb models sound like. So as I mentioned, we've got the sample player doing the drums. I'm not going to go into that in any detail in here, but I'll give you a quick look at the overview of how that looks. So you can see just a couple of MIDI channels driving 2 samples. So in fact 1 MIDI sample and 2 notes triggering the samples. in the Hermod Plus, that looks pretty much how you'd expect. So here we got C3 and C sharp 3 for the bass drums and the hi-hats, and I can just add a few more in here if I want to mix it up a bit. Here you can see the sequence of notes that the Hermod is putting out, and these were randomly generated ones, so we can just very quickly go in here and generate a new sequence of notes with quite a different feel. Obviously it's nice if you get the kind of overlapping notes to really give you a bit of that glide. See, I've configured the settings on the random generator to kind of keep my notes within a smaller range. They're also being quantized to a D minor scale as part of the effects chain on the Hermod Plus. So what we can also do is use CV to drive the cutoff, for example, on the NT303 algorithm. So not everything we're doing here is MIDI. We can set up a modulation track, which I've done already here. So you can see the kind of different coloured light on the channel 8 of the CV outputs. And this is sending a fairly small range of CV to the disting, and that is being used to adjust the cutoff. So interestingly, this main display doesn't show the adjustment, it just shows the kind of like bass level. So you can see that. I actually realised that I kind of prefer the manual control of the cutoff. So I think I ended up unplugging this eventually. So we can regenerate a different set of modulations here with the press of a button, which is quite nice. For some reason, I can't work out, the resonance doesn't seem to be able to be controlled from the front screen of the NT303 algorithm, which is a bit of a shame. Let's try and generate some new patterns, see what we get. We've got quite a range of density here. We can get some quite sparse sequences as well as some pretty dense ones. These ones are lacking a bit of overlap, so let's try and increase the note length maybe to see if we can get some overlap. Ooh, that's maybe a bit too much. I feel like we've kind of lost the 303 feel there in terms of the sequencer. can try to shorten some of the notes manually. See if we can get some of that feel back, but not convinced about this one. Let's put that back. Well, that's quite sparse. This one's got quite a rhythmic feel to it, sort of marchy. Let's take the tracks out one by one and call it a day. I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching. See you again later.